what Ra's al Ghul's plan was in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I think he's Ra's al Ghul.
Fair enough.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. It's just mad enough to work.
See, Ra's al Ghul is my favourite Batman character. I love Ra's al Ghul. I think he's an amazing character. I think he's an incredible character, and I love that Batman Begins went with him as the first villain, because the Penguin, Two-Face, obvious choices, Joker, but they went with Ra's al Ghul, who is probably the only Batman villain really worthy to be Batman's opponent.
Yeah.
Because he's his equal in so many ways. And the fact that he can't die is really cool.
Yeah.
Because
he has the immortality pits.
The immortality pits.
The Lazarus
uses right guard on. The Lazarus pit. Yeah, the Lazarus pit. But I think, he died at the end of the first season. He's back in season 2. He's a successful businessman. His plan was the same as Raz's in Batman Begins. I think he's Ra's al Ghul.
Okay, there we go. That's that out there.
So I'm just putting that out there.
Right there on the table.
Right, but it is really good. It's really, really good. I love it. And it's ridiculous, but it's really good. The magic bullet. Now, last week we'll talk a wee bit about Doctor Who later on. Obviously, last week Saturday was the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, but Friday, and it's really strange because the only thing on the planet that could overshadow the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy was Doctor Who.
It was.
Everybody was talking that much about Doctor Who, they almost forgot. Oh yeah, JFK was killed
exactly
Friday,
50 years ago on Friday. Yeah.
So we kind of forgot about that, but you've seen that Days of Future Past is coming out. The new X-Men movie, Days of Future Past, is coming out now next summer, which I'm really excited about. Did you see the website, the new viral website that's gone up?
There's a viral website now?
There is. And
is it the Trask Industries thing?
I think I'm not 100% sure what the thing about it, if you Google it, but basically what it does is it's setting up this idea. It's done like a news site, right? It's not exactly a Days of Future Past, but it's one of these viral sites. It's about the movie and everything.
Yeah.
And it sets up the idea that Magneto was responsible for the magic bullet.
Yeah.
The whole idea that the magic bullet theory for conspiracy theorists and everything else is that the idea that Lee Harvey Oswald could not possibly have shot John F. Kennedy because the angle was wrong, and for him to have done the damage to Kennedy that he'd done, it would have had to been basically a magic bullet that would have bounced around the car 3 or 4 times and hit him at all different sorts of angles and all this sort of thing. And it's called the magic bullet theory. And the idea is that Days of Future Past seem to be setting up that Magneto killed Kennedy.
Yeah, because he controlled the magic bullet.
Yeah.
Which is an idea that was being kicked around even just after X-Men First Class came out. So there's a good 2 years now that this idea has been kind of kicking around, because Matthew Vaughn came out after the movie's premiere and whenever people said, well, what direction do you see the franchise going? What do you reckon what's next? And he said, I really want to set the next movie in the 70s. And he came up with the idea, obviously, of Magneto somehow being involved with the assassination of JFK, which a lot of people have thought of as being incredibly offensive, because, of course, it's very hard to root for a main character, especially for an American audience, to root for a character who is essentially responsible for a president's death.
Yeah.
It's kind of up there with the Joker killing Barack Obama,
There's a future comic strip.
There it is, right there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that this is now being portrayed as more of a conspiracy, in order to harm mutants. Mm-hmm. So now it's a case of people coming out and saying, oh, well, there's this guy who can control, he's the master of magnetism. He can control metal. What if he was responsible for killing Kennedy?
Yeah. Now, I don't think it's tasteless. Do you think it's tasteless?
I think it would be more tasteless if he actually does it in the movie.
Even at that, do you think it's tasteless even if he did it?
It's just a wee bit. It's not tasteless. It's more kind of off-putting. Because it's, like I said, it's a main character, an established character, and he's a bad guy, yeah. But if you have a bad guy kill an ex-president, it's not really going to go down too well with American audiences, is it? Even if it is Michael Fassbender. I
don't see what the fuss is. I understand, but I don't think there's any. I mean, it's not this universe because it's full of mutants and superheroes and everything else, so it's not real. I mean, nobody was annoyed when the played around with the concept of the Cuban Missile Crisis first time around.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I actually think I think it's smart. I like the idea of it.
No, it is a good idea. It's just that I don't know. It's just there's something just not right about it, I think. If Magneto was responsible for killing Kennedy, well, why?
Well, I'm sure they'll explain that in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will get But so you think the idea behind it is that they're setting up mutants, giving mutants a bad name, that this is like a smear campaign against mutants? Okay.
So it's more kind of, theories than anything else.
Right, okay, fair enough. All right, it's got to that time where we have to talk to Stuart and get the UK top 10 movies.
Buckle your seatbelts, listeners.
Hello.
It's about to get real.
And there he is, Stuart Miller.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Yes, we're good. 2 weeks since we talked to you last. How have you been?
Working, and more working.
Yeah, ain't nothing but a thing, brother. Ain't nothing but a thing. Right, the UK box office this week has been a bit of a topsy-turvy event.
Yep.
Do you want to talk to us? Do you want to break us in nice and gently before we go through the chart?
You were. It's rare that you get events in the top 10 because normally Rentrack, who organise the charts, don't put events in the top 10, but they made an exception this week, and evidently 2 came along at once. So there's 2 events in the top 10, which is rare beyond belief. I think this is actually the first time we've seen events like this enter in the top 10. And then you have a few other new entries. There were 26 films in total released last week, which is an insane amount of movies. If you include the 2 events also, which is in the top 10, that's 28 in total.
That is insane.
Yep.
Okay. And how did they fare? I mean, obviously not all 20 of them are in the top 10.
Yeah, well, obviously, because that would just not be a top 10 then.
Yeah.
It'd be a top 28 if that was the case. But there was movies which were shown on one screen, which only took something like £200. There was a new Danny Dyer movie out, which, supposedly it got a wide release, yet it was only shown on 4 screens. And it took about £4,000, so that's a record for Danny Dyer. But yeah, movies, they're varied, but it just all depend on what kind of screens they released. I think there was some like 6 Bollywood films released last week.
Wow. So this week in the chart we had the events and we had a TV series and all sorts of craziness.
Yep.
All right, well, you know what, without further ado, will we get into it?
Yep.
Can I just ask, how do you pronounce number 9?
Number 9.
Andre Ryu? Ryu. Andre Ryu. Okay, right.
Yeah, like the Street Fighter character.
Ah, okay.
I thought that was Ryu.
Ryu. Well, whatever. At number 10, it's Turbo.
Which a lot of people think it's completely ridiculous, but it's an animated kids film. Of course it's going to be ridiculous. Obviously, if it was a live-action movie, then it would have been ridiculous about speeding snails, but it's an animated film. They're allowed to go to the world of the insane. It's a bit of an average film. The animation's quite nice, but that's the best thing about the film.
All right, put Stuart back in the box.
Yep.
All right.
At number 9, it's Andre Ryu, Home for Christmas 2013.
Yeah, he normally gets all of his concerts shown on Sky Arts. I know early on this year they changed Sky Arts 2 to Sky Ryu. So just 1 month where they just showed all of his concerts. He's a classical artist. He's probably the world's most famous classical artist at the moment. And so he came up against one of the other events that's at number 3. And he went in the charts. He was actually shown on something like 330 screens across the country.
Wow.
At number 8, it's The Family.
Yeah, it's a comedy gangster movie with Robert De Niro in it. Andy was the one who reviewed it. He thought it was okay. A lot of critics have been giving it a real bad bashing, but he thought there was a couple of jokes that hit home a little bit. The rest of the movie was very stagnant.
At number 7, it's Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2.
I think this is more ridiculous than Turbo. Yeah, Turbo is speeding snails. This one is talking foodimals.
But Stuart,
so it's not
Stuart, there's a leak in the boat.
Yeah, so it's not just talking food, but it's talking food animals. So this is an insane one, but this is miles better than Turbo because it's a lot of fun. It's brash, it's colourful, and the jokes are funny.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it.
At number 6, it's Philomena, or Philomena, if you want to pronounce it correctly.
Philomena.
Philomena. Indeed.
Really good acting by Dame Judi Dench and Steve Coogan, which has surprised me that I said that Steve Coogan's actually a decent actor in this form he is anyway. It's a drama about somebody who gives up their son at the age of 14, and when she's older she wants to find her son again. It's, like I said, it's really well acted, really well directed. It just has a few problems in the fact that the music is misplaced and the emotional scenes, the build up to them is actually slightly wasted.
At number 5, it's The Butler.
Yeah, this is inspired by true events, which was based on a butler that served under 13 presidents. It's got Oprah Winfrey, and she championed this movie. She thinks that it's Oscar contention. Andy was the one who saw it and reviewed it, and he thought it's decent. The acting is actually pretty okay, but it's not Oscar bait. But you can see why they think that it is in America, because they latch onto this kind of movie.
At number 4, it's Thor: The Dark World.
Personally, I think this is the best of the Avengers films, if you take out Avengers Assemble. Andy thinks it's the worst Marvel film overall.
Wow.
Okay, extreme differing viewpoints there. Why does he not like it so much?
It just feels like it was too much of an action film and not enough drama.
Right.
Okay.
Bizarre.
Andy, you suck.
Exactly, because not all of them can actually needs to follow the drama blueprints. There
With
needs
mates
to
like
be
Stuart, exactly. Andy, you do suck.
Yeah, there needs to be one where it is just about action. It's about popcorn film, and this is what this one is. It's a popcorn Avengers film.
Yeah, I liked it, and there was some gut wrenching scenes in it as well. I thought there was plenty of drama in it too.
I was entertained by it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. All that matters is that Saxon was entertained.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's an entertaining movie, you know. And there was a lot of that.
Okay.
At number 3, it's Doctor Who: The Day of the Doctor.
Yep, this is actually the highest grossing event in the top 10, in the top 10 history. And this is the first time the Doctor's actually entered in the charts, to my knowledge. I don't think any of these TV movies or any of the movies that feature the Doctor has actually gone into the top 10 at all. And this is the highest grossing TV event to go into the top 10. And it was shown on 440 screens as well. So a lot of people who worried, like myself, that wouldn't get to the cinema to see it, had nothing to worry about because it had a huge, massive screening. My cinema was packed. It was completely packed out. And I think I texted you and I said that I felt out of place because there were people who were sitting around me going, I think we should have dressed like a doctor. There's a guy over there with a fez on and a scarf. He looks like a doctor. And I just felt, what am I doing sitting here watching this? But the more the film, I'll call it a film, the more it went on, the more I felt to myself, I'm glad that I'm actually seeing this in a cinema.
Yeah, I thought it worked very well in cinema.
What did you make of the 3D?
I watched it at home in 3D. And I watched it in the cinema in 3D, and I preferred it at home in 3D because I can actually adjust the brightness more. The 3D was okay. It didn't need the 3D. I think the 3D was just added there as a gimmick, but it didn't need the 3D.
See, I think it looked excellent in 3D because obviously it was made for 3D. It was shot in 3D, and like the effects with the paintings and stuff. And like, there's a particular shot where Tennant is running through the woods, and he finds Queen Elizabeth, wasn't it?
Elizabeth,
yeah. He finds her, and like there was actually, I looked at that scene, and there was a tree branch going past, and it, like, for me personally, watching it in the cinema, just to see that branch go past, it added such depth to the forest.
So just the first bit where you fall into the painting.
Yeah.
Into No More or whatever,
Gallifrey Falls, No More. Yeah.
The bit where you fell into the paint was incredible.
Yeah,
that was so good.
That was a gorgeous effect.
So good.
And what you have to realise is, of course, every single CGI shot had to be done twice in order to achieve the 3D effect. So there's a lot of work that went into it.
Do you think will the Doctor be on the cinema again? Do you think was this kind of? I know it was.
It's an interesting question that I was thinking of because this has done so well in the cinema with it being shown on 440 screens and taking nearly 2 million, and it's the only week that it is going to be in the charts. Do you think they're going to look at the results of this and think to themselves, well, with the Christmas special to make it even more special, maybe we should show it a day early and show it in the cinemas or show it on TV on the 25th and give people a chance to go to the cinema on the 26th to see it at the cinema? Do you think they'll actually think about doing that?
I think it's more likely that they'll create special events, episodes every now and again for the cinema.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Who the movie, or just things like the McGann movie and stuff. I think we might see not a lot of it, but I think we might see it now a few times because it was a big hit. It was huge. It was such a great atmosphere too.
That